Hey, true crime fanatics, this is Claire.
And I'm Andy.
You're tuned in to the Homicide Hobbies podcast, which is a podcast for people who love to hear about the horrendous crimes that people commit. Enjoy.
To welcome our 2 weeks before Halloween, we're going to talk about this dipshit. Remember growing up always having mom or dad check our candy to see if it was tampered with?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to talk about that son bitch that made it to where mom would always steal that questionable piece of candy.
I don't know if it was actual taste testing as much as it was calling dibs.
As every parent can.
I remember that, like, spreading it out on the floor. Oh, no, that one's a bad piece. Oh, definitely bad.
Yeah. She does that with my kids still. She goes trick-or-treating with us.
Yeah, as long as traditions continue.
The guy we're going to talk about today, his name is Ronald Clark O'Bryan. The media ended up dubbing him as the Candy Man.
Not Ronald McDonald.
Correct. We are not going to discuss Ronald McDonald. Ronald was born October 19th, 1944. Ronald lived with his wife, Danine, near Deer Park, Texas, with their son, Timothy. Timothy was born April 5th, 1966. Ronald and his wife also had a daughter named Elizabeth, who was born in 1969. Ronald worked as an optician in Texas State Optical in Sharpstown, Houston. And as the patterns with a lot of our other cases have shown, Ronald was also active in his church. He was a deacon at his Baptist church where he sang in the choir and ran their local bus program. A pastor at their church later described Ronald as being, quote, a good Christian man and an above average father. But
what are the criteria for that?
I don't know, but spoiler alert, this guy kills his son, and I'm going to say that pastor is not a good judge of character because I don't feel like an above average father tries to kill children. Maybe my standards are too high, but they're going to stay that high. So on October 31st, 1974, Halloween night, it was a dark, stormy evening. Ronald had never shown any interest in trick-or-treating with his kids prior to this year. But he was super excited to take his kids trick-or-treating. Even though it began to rain, Ronald decided to take his 8-year-old son Timothy and 5-year-old daughter Elizabeth around the neighborhood. Timothy was dressed in a Planet of the Apes costume, and Elizabeth was dressed as a princess. Ronald's neighbor and friend Jim Bates and his 2 children decided to tag along with Ronald and his kids. And I guess the wives stayed home to pass out candy. I don't know. After going to a home where someone didn't answer the door, the 4 kids were, typical impatient kids and decided to run ahead to the next house. Ronald chose to stay behind at the house that did not open the door. Eventually, Ronald caught up with the group and produced 5 21-inch long pixie sticks, which those are huge pixie sticks.
I sent you the picture of them where they're like half an inch thick. I don't see how you don't remember them.
I only remember the little 6-inch pixie sticks that were like in the paper package.
I remember trying to hit Tara with one.
It's messed up.
Could be why pattern of getting into trouble. But no, they were about half-inch thick. They were like plastic, where the little pixie sticks were like the paper stuff.
Yeah.
I just pinched and they cracked open. But hindsight, that is a lot of sugar just in a tube anyway.
Yes, it is.
Why would anyone need a pixie stick that large? I also remember the top part was like, had a paper thing on it, and the staple always got me. Just so you know.
Good to know. Ronald gave each of the neighbors 2 kids a pixie stick, gave one to Timothy and one to Elizabeth. On the way home, Ronald gave the 5th pixie stick to a 10-year-old boy who he recognized from his church. Before bed, Timothy asked if he could have one of his pieces of candy from trick-or-treating. According to Ronald, Timothy chose as his one piece of candy before bed the pixie stick that Ronald had given to him. Ronald claims that Timothy could not get the powder candy to come out of the straw, so Ronald helped loosen the powder and poured it into Timothy's mouth. After tasting the candy, Timothy complained that it tasted bitter. Ronald decided, rather than throw away some disgusting candy, he would just give his son some Kool-Aid to wash the yucky taste away. Which, again, a pixie stick and Kool-Aid, that is a lot of sugar before bed.
You hit a sugar coma.
Maybe. Timothy immediately started complaining that his stomach hurt, and he ran to the bathroom where he began to violently throw up and convulse. Ronald later claimed that he held Timothy in his arms while he was vomiting, and the child went limp. Timothy O'Bryan died on the way to the hospital less than an hour after his dad helped him eat the pixie stick. Since 8-year-old Timothy died from Halloween candy, the rest of Deer Park, Texas, and the surrounding areas justifiably freaked out and turned their children's Halloween candy into local police because everybody's scared that their candy could be poisoned.
Yeah. It's not worth
Could you imagine? Well, yeah, but could you imagine being a kid and it's like you have all this candy that looks super yummy and it's getting taken away? I'm sure there's little kids that didn't understand what the heck was going on.
Yeah.
The police did not believe initially that Ronald or his wife had anything to do with Timothy's death until the autopsy revealed that the pixie stick he had eaten was laced with a fatal dose of potassium cyanide. 4 of the 5 pixie sticks that Ronald claimed to have received from a neighbor were recovered by police. The parents of the 5th child became hysterical when they could not locate the pixie stick after being notified by police. The parents rushed upstairs and found their son passed out, holding the unconsumed piece of candy because the little boy was unable to open the staples that sealed the wrapper shut. So there's your staples for you.
Seriously, though, it's the worst way to seal a candy anyway for a kid. Like, I cannot be the only one in this that have cut themselves on a staple, but who's going to delicately remove a staple anyway? Why is there a staple?
Especially when it's a sugar rush child.
Yeah, well, I don't know if they're sugar rushed before the pixie stick, though.
Well, you don't know how much other candy they've eaten. You know what I mean? Or a super anxious child excited about their soon-to-be sugar rush.
Which, by the way, I did look it up, that the way cyanide kills is it cuts off your body's ability to absorb oxygen, which is why, the whole passing out thing is super harmful to your heart and brain, even if you were to survive it because of the loss of oxygen. Which also led me to investigate what the heck is cyanide for?
I have no idea.
It's used to extract gold and silver from ores. It's also used in electroplating and steel hardening, as well as fumigation.
Huh.
Thought it was interesting.
Those seem like dangerous jobs if you're handling something that could potentially kill you.
But apparently potassium cyanide as a powder or the granule, that's where it gets like the almondy smell. But that state is when it's poisonous. When it turns to a gas for like the fumigation, it's apparently not.
Huh.
Which is interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. All 5 of the pixie sticks had been opened with the top 2 inches of the pixie stick refilled with cyanide and then sealed with a staple. The medical examiner said that when Timothy's body was brought to the morgue, the scent of almonds was coming from Timothy's mouth, which is often a sign of cyanide poisoning, like you just said.
Okay, that was full of crap. That it is lethal when it's inhaled as a gas.
Oh. So cyanide and all the jobs that require cyanide usage, super dangerous.
And flammable.
Interesting. Later, Timothy's autopsy confirmed that he had eaten enough potassium cyanide to kill 2 or 3 grown men. That's a lot.
A lot.
Pathologists testified that when they tested the other 4 pixie sticks, they each contained enough cyanide to kill 3 to 4 adults.
I don't see how it wasn't a red flag that anybody having that much potassium cyanide.
So we'll get to that in a minute. But Ronald told police that he could not remember which house he'd gotten the Pixie sticks from. And that's when police were like, this sounds a bit suspect because Ronald and his neighbor had only taken their kids to a couple of homes on 2 streets because it was raining. So if it's not like they went to a ton of houses, how do you not know?
Yeah.
Investigators became even more suspicious after talking to other trick-or-treaters and learned that none of the homes on those streets were giving out Pixie sticks.
He didn't think this one through.
Sure didn't. And after walking the neighborhood with police 3 times, Ronald led them to the home where no one had answered the door. Ronald claimed that when he went back there before catching up with the group, he said the owner of the home did not turn on the lights, but did crack the door open and handed him 5 Pixie sticks. Ronald claimed that he'd only seen the person's arm, and it was a man's arm, and described it as hairy.
Was it his own?
Yes, it was. But the home was owned by Courtney Melvin. Mr. Melvin was an air traffic controller at WP Hobby Airport, and he didn't get home on Halloween night until 11 p.m. So police ruled him out because there were over 200 people that confirmed that Mr. Melvin had been at work all night, which that's a lot of people.
I don't even believe that they confirmed that with 200 people.
Yeah. I think it was a lot, and they were just like, okay, it wasn't this guy.
Well, I mean, that would take, I don't know, but I believe that one at all.
Now, keep in mind,
you know what? That does make me curious, though. He was walking around trick-or-treating. Where the hell did he have those Pixie sticks lodged that no one saw him carrying anything around? I get it's raining. He could have had them tucked in his jacket, but would he not have been walking weird?
Or if it was in like an arm sleeve.
Yeah, but then he couldn't bend his arm.
It was the first house they went to.
I thought they had gone to a couple of them.
The kids were antsy and ran ahead because they were impatient. So
I still think it's weird, even with like, let's get in the car. You know, just the whole, where did he have those?
Yeah.
Or he knew the guy wasn't going to be home because he's a pilot and he stashed him over there.
Air traffic controller, but yeah, that's possible too. And they weren't driving, they walked. So could be why he hung behind.
He had him in his jail wallet the whole time.
His prison purse. So now keep in mind, this was all in 1974.
Why they tasted funny.
No. Unless he shits out cyanide. No.
You don't know.
So keep in mind, 1974, Ronald was in some serious debt. Police learned that he was over $100,000 in debt and had a history of being unable to hold down a job. Now, in 1974, $100,000 is the equivalent to around $550,000 now.
It's a lot of debt.
It's a lot of debt.
What is that from?
I would assume it includes his house because that's a lot of debt.
Yeah. I don't even know.
And maybe a ton of credit cards. I don't know.
School debt, maybe?
Perhaps.
I don't know.
But in the 10 years prior to Timothy dying, Ronald had held 21 jobs.
Yikes.
21 jobs in 10 years is a lot.
Does it say they're all in the same field, or is he bouncing around to different things?
Damn it, Claire, tried to look it up and could not find anything other than when he was arrested. You're making me jump ahead, by the way. So he eventually is arrested for killing his son, but turns out when he's arrested, he was under suspicion for stealing from his optician job, and he was about to be fired. I would hope that the opticians don't have cyanide, because I don't know what they would use that for. I don't feel like they can do any gold mining in somebody's eyeball. But if they were ear, nose, and throat, the whole "are you digging for gold" makes sense.
Good one.
Anyway, so all 21 jobs Ronald had been fired from for either negligence or fraudulent behavior. So, like we just jumped ahead, Ronald was arrested. When he was arrested, he was under suspicion from stealing from his current job, and he was close to being fired. Ronald's take-home salary was $150 a week, and it barely covered food and rent. Ronald's car was about to be repossessed. He had defaulted on several bank loans, and his family's home had just been foreclosed on. So
That
they
could
were,
explain where the debt piled up, though. If
yeah,
he's going job to job, then
yeah,
it could have just been cost of living compiled over several years. Like it was going to come to a head eventually.
yeah. And then the car debt and everything else. Yeah, it's just,
Life was expensive.
yes, live within your means, people. But police learned that Ronald had taken out a life insurance policy on each of his children a few months prior to Timothy's death. In
It's a little
January,
it's a little strange to do when you
yes,
don't have money to feed them.
yep. In January 1974, he'd taken out a $10,000 life insurance policy on each of his children. Again, to put it in perspective, $10,000 life insurance policy in 1974 would be the equivalent to almost 55,000 now. So you're talking $110,000. A month before Timothy died, Ronald took out an additional $20,000 policy on his children. His life insurance agency had objected to Ronald increasing the children's life insurance policy so much because they said it seemed unnecessary because they're such young, healthy children. But Ronald did what he wanted and increased the life insurance policy. In total, all the different policies totaled around $60,000 back in the 70s. So he was looking at one heck of a payout.
Hey, you know what? Since he
Hmm.
purchased all life insurance policies for his kids, you think he just didn't know which one he was going to bump off?
Well, since he gave the candy to both of them, I think he was hoping to bump them both off.
Yeah, true.
And we'll get to that also in a second because just hold your pantyhose.
Ain't
Da-
wearing any.
Danine, Ronald's wife, said she didn't know about the life insurance policies that he had taken out on their kids. And police also found out that the morning after Timothy died, the morning after, Ronald had called the insurance company to find out about collecting on his policy. Like,
Um,
the poor kid isn't even buried. He's still in the hospital.
yeah,
And this piece of garbage
barely
is trying to
told.
collect. Yeah. And he's trying to collect already.
When did he get those policies? You said a year before?
No, in January. So
Oh.
10 months prior. And then the month before, so September, he increased it.
Ugh.
Yeah. While investigating, police also learned that Ronald had visited a chemical supply store in Houston to buy cyanide shortly before Halloween. He left without purchasing anything, though, after learning that the smallest amount available to purchase there was 5 pounds, which, oh my God, that's so much cyanide.
I get that there are legitimate uses for it, but maybe it's because I don't know what the cost of 5 pounds of cyanide is, but maybe that's to deter people from purchasing cyanide. So, like,
Yeah,
if you can only buy it in quantities that would be for normal purpose or for whatever you're using it for.
yeah.
But you think you'd need some sort of like,
Special permit or certification,
but the hard
something.
part is it's evidently since you can make it yourself. Not suggesting people do that, but it's hard to restrict because it's so easy to attain.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's something like hundreds of apple seeds kind of scenario, but you could essentially do it that way too. And how do you restrict something that you
I
could
thought apple seeds was
make?
arsenic.
Now you're gonna make it up. Nope. Apple seeds are cyanide and sugar.
Huh. I knew that apple seeds were bad, but I didn't know. Does it say how much? Isn't it like a lot?
For roughly 40 apple cores to receive a fatal dose.
It's a lot of apple seeds. It's a lot of apples.
That math seems a little off. 200 apple seeds or 40 apple cores. Now, this is from healthline.com. But.
Well, that's about 5 seeds per core.
Or like 6.
Anywho, police also learned that Ronald had talked with several chemical companies on where to buy cyanide, and that he jokingly asked them how much it would take to kill a person. Police also found a pocket knife of Ronald's in Ronald's home with the candy residue on it.
I think asking, although my Google history is now screwed, but I feel like asking how many seeds it or how much cyanide it would take to kill someone is also like a right. So what are you using this for again?
Oh, let's put this guy on a red flag list here.
Oh, we need a copy of your ID, sir.
So police started to believe that Ronald had laced the children's candy with poison in an effort to kill his kids to collect on their life insurance policies. No shit. The police suspected that Ronald had given the other 3 children the candy to try to cover up the crime of murdering his own children. So like if 3 other random kids keeled over, it took the suspicion off of him.
You would think he would have I don't know if this is the case, but you know when we went trick-or-treating and people would leave bowls of candy out because they were out trick-or-treating?
Mm-hmm.
So you would think he would have done thrown some candy in there for somebody else to grab and then legitimately have a case of people got them from different houses.
You would think, but I think this guy just had his eye on the prize of killing his kids to collect on their life insurance and didn't really think things through, especially because he's calling different chemical companies and asking different people, like, how much
he's just trying to make sure. He's thinking he doesn't want to make him sick and then incur hospital bills. He wants to make sure he does it right, which is why he wanted him to finish the Pixie stick and wash it down. He probably added more cyanide in that too. Just like, there you go, little Timmy, drink up.
Right?
That's so disgusting.
He's a piece of garbage. Ronald was questioned many times and claimed he was innocent. Police were never able to determine where or when Ronald actually bought the cyanide or whether he made it. But after failing a polygraph and police finding a piece of calculator paper with the total of Ronald's debt written down, which conveniently added up to being nearly the exact same amount that he would have collected if both of his kids had died. So awfully convenient that your 2 kids, who one of which did die, and your daughter, who fortunately for her did not die, but if she had, your debts would have been wiped out. Like, that seems oddly suspicious. Ronald ended up being arrested for Timothy's murder on November 5th, 1974. That was a fast investigation.
Yeah.
Because you figure if Timothy died on Halloween night, that's the 31st, they did all of this work and he was arrested by the 5th. Like, super fast. And okay, not questioning the police investigation at all. Solid work so far that we've read. But I wonder if they ever investigated Ronald's friend Jim, the neighbor, as being like his partner, because his kids were poisoned, or like tried to be poisoned also. I know it sounds crazy, but if they couldn't pinpoint where Ronald purchased the cyanide, maybe Jim bought it. Because Jim, it's not like Jim was ever like, he didn't come forward to police and say, dude, he hung behind at this house and then produced these Pixie sticks. I never saw it. He was just like, yeah, I don't remember either. if I found out that my friend slash neighbor tried to poison my 2 children, I have no loyalties to this piece of garbage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I realize it's a stretch. I'm just curious. But from Halloween night to the 5th, I don't know. That just seems like a crazy fast investigation, but they might have checked out both people. Who knows? Ronald was indicted on 1 count of capital murder and 4 counts of attempted murder. He entered a plea of not guilty to all 5 counts. Ronald's trial began in Houston on May 5th, 1975. During the trial, a chemist who was an acquaintance with Ronald testified that in the summer of 1973, so about a year and a half before Ronald killed his son, Ronald had contacted him asking about cyanide and how much would be a fatal dose.
This is why it was a quick investigation, because he left ample evidence.
Sure did. A chemical supply salesman also testified that Ronald had asked him about how to purchase cyanide.
Oy.
Friends and coworkers of Ronald's testified in the months before Timothy's death that Ronald showed an unusual interest in cyanide and spoke about how much it would take to kill a person.
Hey, so cool fact about apple seeds. If you swallowed one whole, it'll pass through because the coating it has makes it harmless, which is why you'd have to grind them to a fine powder to release the toxins.
Oh, that is interesting.
Which, on a semi-separate note, Dave will eat an apple core.
Maybe tell him to stop doing that.
Well, it's just one of those, like...
Tell him Dad used to do the same thing.
Well, yeah, the only thing that'll be left sometimes is just the stem. Like, but I suppose he's safe unless he munches on...
40?
Yeah, like, if he's on his 18th consecutive apple core and and has chewed the seeds as well.
So, back to Ronald, his own sister-in-law and brother-in-law testified that on the day of Timothy's funeral, Ronald spoke of using the money from Timothy's insurance policy to take a long vacation and the items, like different items he wanted to purchase.
So the stupid, like, how stupid can you be?
Pretty stupid, apparently. Like, he isn't even going to use the money to pay down his debt. He's just going to go live a great life because, fuck it. I didn't kill both kids. I can't pay it all off, so why pay any of it off? There's a special place in hell for people like him.
Yeah, it's called being a prison bitch. They're going to empty his jail wallet.
So, Daneen.
Or pack it full, whichever one.
Ronald's wife also testified that Timothy did not, in fact, choose the Pixie stick as his one piece of candy. She stated that Ronald had forced Timothy to choose the Pixie stick.
So fucked up.
So this kid wanted a piece of candy and his dad was like, no, if you want a piece of candy, you can only have the Pixie stick. To which, as his wife, I would have been like, dude, that's a ton of sugar.
Well, it's weird to be like, here, brush your teeth with this almond joy anyway. Let me tuck you in. How about a Pixie stick to go with your sleep?
Yeah.
Candy before bed's just weird.
Yes. Well, on Halloween night,
we weren't going to bed. We had it spread out on the living room floor and we're, comparing bounties.
Yes, but we weren't allowed to, like, consume a ton of it Halloween night.
We also didn't take one for underneath our pillow for later either.
True, but neither did Timothy. He just wanted one before bed.
Yeah, we wouldn't have been allowed that because it's just like, no, you're ready for bed. You brushed your teeth.
True. So Ronald's defense.
And even worse than that, I hate to bring up bedwetting again, but here, drink some Kool-Aid before you go night-night. Like, seems questionable too. Just saying is all.
So Ronald's defense, the only defense they could come up with,
he's an
was
idiot.
to use the whole urban legend concerning Halloween candy that was laced with poison, needles, or like candy apples with razor blades in them.
It gave him the idea.
It was the only thing that his defense could come up with was that it was urban legend come true. Ronald didn't really do it. It was a stranger. These 5 kids just happened to be the victim, and Ronald just happened to have life insurance policies, the exact amount to pay off his debt, and both of his kids were given, it was an urban legend come true.
Right.
At the end, the stories about poison candy being handed out with razor blades and all that, there's not a whole lot of documented incidents prior to this case of strangers poisoning Halloween candy. It's usually like this case where it's someone, yeah.
Well, I feel like those are statistics carried out beyond just poisoning. It's just murder in general. It's usually not random.
Yeah.
The odds are it's somebody close to you. One of those sick son bitches. Keep your eyes open and your candy shut.
This case obviously got national attention, and the press dubbed Ronald O'Bryan the Candy Man.
I feel like there's like a better name, like something that nothing's coming to mind right now, but instead of the Candy Man, what was the Pixie stick? It's Pixie Dick.
What?
That'll be his name instead of the Candy Man. I just renamed him.
I think you're going to be dubbed the new All About the Penises.
I was thinking of a name that you'd appreciate. It is after all your episode. Were you thinking about one?
Nope, sure wasn't. So on June 3rd, 1975, the jury took 46 minutes to deliberate and found Ronald O'Bryan guilty of capital murder and 4 counts of attempted murder. The jury then took an additional 71 minutes to sentence Ronald to death by electrocution.
I have to say, if I was going to be given the death sentence, definitely wouldn't want to be electrocuted.
Oh, that sounds very painful.
Oh, it gets, and not to make a joke out of that, but it's neck and neck with being hung. Like, those two, no. I'd be okay with a guillotine or lethal injection.
I don't think I want the guillotine.
It's quick.
Yeah. You know what? I just prefer not to be put to death. Where's that on this list of options?
It's not on the list.
Well, it should be, damn it. So the jury took 71 minutes and sentenced him to electrocution, and shortly after he was convicted, his wife filed for divorce. At least she wasn't one of these women that stayed married to the friggin' criminal and stood by him and was like, oh, he didn't do it.
Yeah. Well,
at least her blinders came off.
Yeah.
She does later remarry, by the way, and her new husband adopts the daughter, Elizabeth. So
was it the neighbor? Because then that shit's real suspicious.
I don't know who the wife remarried.
That'd be a crazy twist if it was his friend.
Damn it, you're going to make me Google it in a minute.
That did the pixie sticks and then framed him. Did she get the life insurance? Or since it was a murder, nobody got life insurance?
I mean, I've never collected a life insurance, but I don't know.
I don't know how that would work.
No, I just Googled it. I have no idea who she remarried.
So it was the neighbor.
Could be. We'll let that play out in your own little memories and
because even if he wasn't in on it, that I feel like they could bond over the fact that they went through the same shit with that wackadoodle poisoning the children.
Yeah. So in 1975, men sentenced to death under Texas law were confined to the S1 unit near Huntsville, Texas.
The hell's that?
I guess it's just where they kept all of the death row inmates. According to a former chaplain who worked for the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, Ronald was shunned and despised by his fellow death row inmates for killing his own child, and he had absolutely no friends while in prison.
That's when you hit bottom, when your fellow death row inmates shun you.
Right?
Like, how
Like,
bad does shit have to get when they turn their back on you?
yeah. The inmates reportedly petitioned to hold an organized demonstration on Ronald's execution date to express their hatred of him for killing his son and trying to kill 4 other children.
Just when the jail officers thought it wasn't possible, everybody bonded over their hate for this guy.
Right?
He brought people closer together. Gangs merged as one to demonstrate their hate for this piece of shit.
You gotta be a real piece of garbage, like, seriously. It's kind of funny in, like, a not so funny way that
That
other
the death
people
row
that are
inmates have
yes,
standards.
yes, like, just, oh my,
Who knew there was a line to be drawn on death row?
uh, you know what? I never would have guessed it. I learned something new to doing this case. Ronald's first date of execution was set for August 8th, 1980, but his attorney successfully petitioned for a stay of execution. Ronald then had a second date of execution that was scheduled for May 25th, 1982, and that date of execution was also postponed.
Hey, can you get a life insurance for somebody on death row?
I doubt it.
Like, do they have a death row clause?
I'm guessing like it would be right up there with trying to get a life insurance policy for somebody that's like has a terminal illness.
Maybe the premium is just really high.
Claire's new payout.
Can
So,
you imagine the disappointment? Oh gosh, another stay of execution. Shucks.
well, if his ex-wife had a policy, life insurance policy prior to being put on death row, does it void it out?
That that's what I'm kind of getting at. Like you
Well,
just
see, I was thinking like you could research, find out who's about to be sentenced to death, and go take out a life insurance policy and collect. But okay, so a judge with a sick sense of humor, Judge Michael McSpadden, scheduled the third execution for October 31st, 1982. It was the 8th anniversary of the murder of Ronald's son and the attempted murder of his daughter and the neighbor's 2 kids.
why did they keep getting granted the stay of execution? Was he still like having some sort of appeal?
Yeah. I guess if your appeals haven't run out, if they wait until their execution date's upon them and they still have the right to an appeal.
Hmm.
But the Judge McSpadden also offered to personally drive Ronald to the death chamber himself.
But did he volunteer to flip the switch?
So he couldn't because during all these different stays of execution, they did away with the electric chair and it became lethal injection. Ronald was scheduled to be the first Texan executed by lethal injection.
Who
But
volunteers for that? We're gonna
he,
try this. You're number one. Hopefully we get it
well,
right. Worst case
it,
scenario, you live.
so that lucky sumbitch managed to have the Supreme Court delay the date of execution yet again to give Ronald a chance to pursue yet another appeal to seek a new trial. And a fourth date of execution was scheduled on March 31st, 1984. Ronald O'Brien's lawyer sought a fourth stay of execution on the basis that lethal injection was cruel and unusual punishment. On March 28th, the federal judge rejected the request of the stay of execution, and on March 31st, 1984, shortly after midnight, Ronald Clark O'Bryan was executed by lethal injection at the Huntsville unit. Ronald's last meal consisted of a T-bone steak cooked to medium to well done. If you're curious, he also had French fries with ketchup, whole kernel corn, sweet peas, a lettuce and tomato salad with egg and French dressing, iced tea with sweetener, saltines, Boston cream pie, and bread rolls.
And an Alka-Seltzer?
I feel like I gained a few pounds. Like, just reading all
Well,
that food. That's a lot of food.
does he have a time requirement to consume it, or does it start like at noon and he can take as long as he needs to finish his last meal? More like
Mm,
his last feast. So that's a
well,
lot of food.
I don't know what time they feed inmates dinner, but if he's executed at midnight, like shortly after midnight the next day, I feel like he had plenty of time to eat.
No, I haven't finished my Boston cream pie.
So Ronald's last words were, "Take it away, Claire."
Would you stop that? It's not a circus.
It kind of is. Go for it.
What is about to transpire in a few moments is wrong. However, we, as human beings, do make mistakes and errors. This execution is one of those wrongs, yet doesn't mean our whole system of justice is wrong. Therefore, I would forgive all who have taken part in any way in my death. Also, to anyone I have offended in any way during my 39 years, I pray and ask you for forgiveness, just as I forgive anyone who offended me in any way. And I pray and ask God's forgiveness for all of us, respectively, as human beings. To my loved ones, I extend my undying love. To those close to me, know in my heart I love you one and all. God bless you all, and a God's best blessing be always yours. Ronald C. O'Bryan. P.S. During my time here, I have been treated well by all TDC personnel.
Good job.
Which, by the way, I feel like I would give 0 fucks if I offended this dipshit. So, him forgiving me for being offensive, don't care, fella. Night night.
Right?
Although I did think the PS during his time here, the prison staff have treated him well. I feel like he got knocked to the head. Like, just like, hey, put in there you were treated well.
Yeah.
Not to say that happened, but I just thought it was like a funny, random ass thing to throw in.
Yeah. Or maybe they did pull the other inmates off of him multiple times, and he was grateful for that.
It could be that. Maybe it's even a, like, you know, how back in the day you could tip your executioner. Maybe that's how he's like, I'm gonna put in a few good words for you, fella. Just up that juice, make sure it's the good stuff that does me in quick, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, during the execution, a crowd of 300 demonstrators gathered outside the prison, cheering while some yelled trick or treat, and others showered anti-death penalty demonstrators with candy.
That's some dark shit.
It
Who
really is
brought the candy?
right? Somebody came
By the way,
prepared
it was
to chuck
Pixie
candy,
sticks.
but they came prepared to throw candy at other people. And let's keep in mind that this execution took place just shortly after midnight. So these people, over 300 people, showed up outside to chuck candy at other people.
Were they nougats?
No, but they should have been those little malt balls because those are disgusting.
I like those. The
They're
Whoppers?
disgusting. Yes, those are disgusting.
I like those.
Ugh.
I don't know. It's weird. Like, they have a weird consistency. I like crunching on them. They taste like sour milk.
Like I said, ugh. I question your taste buds that you think sour milk qualifies as a good candy taste.
Oh well.
Well,
Paydays. Don't like those. Too salty.
Last little note on this. The first recorded case of real, live candy tampering for strangers was that of a dentist in 1959. Apparently, a dentist was protesting against the practice of Halloween. I guess he was really sick and tired of filling cavities. He laced candies with laxatives and gave them out to trick-or-treaters, and he sickened 30 children.
That is so disgusting. I hope it wasn't fast acting, because can you just see the line of little kids going down the street like Hansel and Greteling it with turds?
No, I cannot. Like, I try not to picture stuff like that. Thank you,
or
Claire.
the poor hospital staff, if like suddenly they're flooded with all these children who are painting the walls in the lobby.
It's
There's a
disgusting.
nice shade of brown. Poor things. Although I do think laxative in high doses can also like render you in a coma. So it's just like, was he? It, ugh.
I feel like you can only put so much laxative in a piece of candy. So
They were chocolate coated apples.
that's all I've got on our pre-Halloween weekend episode.
Check your candy. Keep an eye out on your candy. I mean, continue the legacy of taste testing the good pieces. Throw out the bad pieces. Remember, the odds are in your favor that if it is poisoned, it's somebody close to you. It's not a stranger, unless it's your dentist who's fucking tired of Halloween. Keep an eye on that guy. Although, you know what's really fucked up? No. You know what's fucked up about that? Halloween only keeps that guy in business. Was he trying to retire?
Maybe. Who knows?
He's angry. He just wants this quiet day, and all he's got are all these little kids with cavities coming in.
You never know. But it was a few years ago. So we came back after doing our haul of trick-or-treating, and all my kids are in the living room, and some are in the kitchen, and they're dumping their candy out. And so mom's going around doing her picking through and
that
taking
one's a bad
her
piece.
Yeah, that's a bad piece. Oh, that's a bad piece. To which led to my kids being like, why is she taking our candy? Which, by the way, there were definitely those like gum pieces that are like twisted on the sides where those look questionable, but those got left behind.
Those are never good. The flavor lasts like 2 chews, and then it's just a wad of gum. Although, you think when that dentist was handing out the laxative-laced candy, he's like, when he opened the door the first time, and they, like the early trick-or-treaters, he's like just kicking the X-Lax boxes around the door like, oh.
Maybe. But one of my kids got a box of raisins in his candy, and he handed those to mom and was like, here, Grandma, I think these are questionable. So, yeah.
These look bad.
Here, Grandma, you could use some raisins. Give me my 100 grand back. Those are my favorite. I wish they would make 100 grand in dark chocolate.
Ew.
Why?
I'm not a dark chocolate fan. Although,
really?
So dark chocolate or the white chocolate, which should not even be called chocolate, not a big fan of.
I don't like white chocolate. Milk chocolate, it's too much sugar. It gives me a headache.
So,
but I like dark chocolate.
I don't like the Hershey's milk chocolate bars. That's too much. But I'm with you with the 100 grand bars. I remember the first time when Dave was just like, you want anything? And I said 100 grand. Totally didn't know I was talking about a candy. So when he got back in the car, he didn't get me anything. And I was like, and he's just like, what? Oh, that's an actual thing? I thought you were being like, what would you like? 100 grand. It's a good thing he didn't go in and try to shake the place down. Like, turns out they don't keep that much in the till.
Hey, baby, we gotta go.
I got it.
Turns out this would be a very different podcast.
From prison with Dave.
Anyway, that's all I've got.
Thank you for listening to Homicide Hobbies. I'm Claire.
I'm Andy.
Follow us each week to get your fix of the atrocities that occur in true crime. And don't forget to tell people about us and rate us if you like us. But don't rate us if you didn't. Just change the channel.